Put up no more number 2 pencils.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone. I will declare a quorum, and I'll call the meeting to order. Item number 2, Ron with North Lake Community Church is going to pray over us. And I don't know how you can top that passionate one last time,
Well,
but that really moved me. I appreciate that.
thank you, Judge. Loving Father, we pause in these moments on this beautiful Monday morning and we give you praise for life. We give you praise for the blessing of Brown County, and I give you praise again for the blessing of all of these leaders assembled here. As we at North Lake Community Church continue to pray for each of them by name with support and encouragement, let them know that as they stand and make decisions on behalf of our county, that they're not alone, that you give guidance and counsel and direction because you do love us and you are our very life, you're our very breath. So I thank you for the commissioners and the other elected officials here and all these gathered here in this assembly this morning, that when we come together to serve you, it's not a wasted moment, but we do it as unto you because that's what you call us to do. Let us stay the course. Let us not be defeated. Let us not give up. Let us not be discouraged, even in world events, even in the events of the United States of America. Father, we're here for such a time as this to do that work which you have called each of us to do. Each of us is unique and fearfully and wonderfully made in your eyes, and we're grateful that you give us this privilege even on a Monday morning when so many of us are weary and tired from the battles. But Father, you've gone ahead and given us victory, and that victory comes through our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Wayne, thank you. And we're a blessing. Mr. Larry, thank you. Judge. Give up.
Good morning, sir.
Joel.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 3 is citizens' comments. Item number 3 is recognition of special guests and presentations. We've got a full house this morning, but I don't think we have any presentations. Item number 4 is citizens' comments. I don't have, Stephanie, do you have anyone signed up to speak? I don't have anyone signed up to speak. I apologize, I'm a little hoarse this morning. I refereed my first football game over the weekend, or scrimmage, and my voice wasn't quite ready to come back. So it's a lot of yelling. So item number 5 is, I'll tell you what, we'll come back. Item number 5, consideration approval of agenda of the agenda minutes and budget workshop. I need to put my glasses on for August 13th and 16th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I think we got, I know we got those electronically.
I move we approve the minutes from the workshop on August 13 and the meeting from August 16.
It is. It's a workshop and a regular meeting on the 16th.
I got it.
It said meetings.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Trawick. Any further discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimously. Item number 6 is consideration and action on approval on any treasurer or auditor's reports. Nothing from the auditor. I don't see anything from the treasurer. Item number 7, we'll come back to. We always save that one to the end. Number 8 is our consent agenda. Item number 8A is Commissioner Kelton, consideration and possible action regarding the burn ban.
I don't know that we've had that much change in condition that won't change anything right now. I'm not sure what y'all
I think it needs to stay in place.
Place got 5 inches, it would burn tomorrow. It burns today.
So.
All right, so it sounds like no action on item number 8A. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I'm saying.
I think I've heard it's everybody. All right.
There's 2 of those.
So we'll pass with no action on item number 8A. Item number 8B is Lisa Dick, Administrator of the Brown County Health Department. She's going to provide us with an update on COVID-19. And then the next agenda item is also Lisa, so if you'll just hang up there, Lisa, we'll get them both knocked out at once. So tell us where we're at. I understand we lost quite a few more last week.
We did. Last week was a pretty harsh week. We have 187 additional cases of COVID. This morning, we had 15 people hospitalized here at our Hendrick Hospital. We had 6 deaths last week that were reported, and over the weekend, we know that there were additional deaths that I'm not reporting on those additional deaths this morning. I don't have information about those, but there was a woman in her 70s, a man in his 50s, a man in his 70s, a man in his 80s, a woman in her 80s, and a man in his 90s. 2 of those, the woman in her 80s and a man in his 90s, were from nursing facilities. The rest of them were for our general population.
Were they all hospitalized, or were there any deaths?
I don't know that there were any deaths at home. We did have an increase in the number of people vaccinated. Those fully vaccinated, we finally reached, and this has been over several weeks that we stayed at 34%, or exactly at 35%. And so that pushed us to where we have people with at least 1 dose, was 13,601. Fully vaccinated, 11,513. So we do need that number to come up for us to help mitigate cases in the future. And that is what the funding request is about. So the funding
Well,
request.
I have to read that into, I have to announce that one.
Oh, okay.
But let me ask you, before we move off of the update, what does that put our hospital rate as far as our percentage?
I'm guessing that it's right at around 12%, 12.65%.
And what's the,
Or it's 12.66%, sorry.
what is the, remind everyone again, the governor's order, what's the role?
So GA 38 removed that mandate where we don't have to close when it gets to 15%, but I don't want us to think of those hospitalizations as something that is not more serious and that could take a toll on our community. It certainly does with the deaths, but other actions could be required. If the hospitals thought that they didn't have staffing to do elective surgeries, that could be something that could affect all of our health as a whole, because that could change if we have something that's uncomfortable or maybe help our health in the future. We may not be able to do that. So there are other benefits of keeping that number and count down, not just loss of line.
We just got a top news story. The FDA gave Pfizer its full approval as of this morning.
For a booster, or for
No,
a regular shot?
Regular shot.
Instead of emergency approval?
Yes, that's good news.
All right, any other questions on 8B for Lisa?
I also heard on the news that vaccinations are starting picking up again. People are starting to get vaccinated. I mean, nationally, I guess, as a whole. So I hope they are locally.
Item number 8C is in Charles, is also Lisa Dick, and that is her request for possible approval and action regarding funding for the Health Department COVID-19 vaccination efforts for the sum of $15,000. If you recall, she gave us full warning she was going to ask for this last week. So now it's on the agenda for your formal consideration and possible approval so that you can move toward more vaccination clinics.
That is the purpose of that funding that we're requesting, is to help get our vaccination numbers up. So it would be, the main cost of that would be trying to get staffing that can provide vaccines, or having staff that can get vaccines, and then the ancillary supplies that go along with that.
Jennifer, do we have any funding left out of the original CARES Act? It seems to me like there was a balance left over. If not, it can come out of the ARP money if we need to. Is that correct, Bob? Obviously, it's COVID mitigation, so it can.
The CARES funding, the 3.6 million that we got, is that the
Yes.
3.6 million? Is that
The
what it
original,
is?
yes.
Okay, so assuming that our radio expenses are covered, 486,000.
And we're gonna, unless I hear otherwise, we're gonna proceed forward. I recommend that we proceed forward like Commissioner Worley did as well, that the radios will be covered. They still haven't given me a specific answer, but the reason why I was trying to find a place for them to provide the 15,000.
What was the invoice we paid in July for y'all?
It was kind of the same thing. They were expenses that were not covered by current grants. And we itemized that out. So it was staffing, but that staffing was for those several months in there. I believe it was March, April, May, or April, May, June.
Was that, we approved one prior from
Yes, sir.
40 years, that was at that?
Well, the last invoice that we paid was July 12th, and we paid $29,055.
Well, I know we approved up to an amount, but she was gonna bill us as we got
And
it.
that was significantly less than the request.
Yeah, I remember the question. So this, we'll pay this, as it's used up, is that what's this gonna be?
So that's how I would like for us to look at this, is that right now we're asking for funding to go towards that immunization function or vaccination function of the health department, in addition and above what we usually spend. And so we would specify specific hours or staffing to do those. We'll post positions for that. But when this funding is spent, then we may be asking for additional funding. I mean, I don't think that my crystal ball has worked at all on this. I don't know what's around the corner and what we're gonna look like. But I know that we need to continue with the immunization effort. We have other efforts that are continuing at the health department towards COVID that are also, honestly, we're struggling. Our staff are working really hard. And so the response portion of it, they're also very tired and short-staffed. And so we're trying to make it and do the best that we can. But this funding is needed for us to increase that immunization component.
And we got an itemized idea of what we actually spent this on. We'll get something itemized.
Yes,
like we
you
did
will.
on that.
And the main thing is gonna be, so of that, I'm estimating that probably 8 to 10,000 of the 15 will be spent on, staffing. We are requesting the same from the city. And I've sent it in a memo format that you all should have a copy of. And we did, with the help of our engineering department, we were able to put together kind of a breakdown of the cases in Brown County and where they were in the county as far as the city of Brownwood, Early Banks, Blanket, and unincorporated areas. And so what that looked like was about 55% of the COVID cases that we have worked with were from Brown County. And then looking at all the others, about 45% were from the county and that includes the Early Banks, Blanket. There's a breakdown for each of those cities that you should be able to see too.
And the money's gonna come from where, Jennifer?
If not the CARES fund, then the ARP.
Well, I would make a motion, we approve up to 15,000 as they need it, and I guess they can show it as their itemization, or show us what you need it for, or whatever, is that what we're doing?
Yeah, it'd have to be invoiced.
Invoiced, so up to 15. I'll make a motion, we approve up to 15 at this time, helping the COVID mitigation process.
Second? Second by Commissioner Shaw. Any further discussion? Please keep doing a great job. All in favor? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Next, we have our district attorney is item number 8D is in David. He would like to speak to us regarding consideration and approval of action regarding recommendation of the committee for the replacement of the county software. And that is sponsored by Commissioner Worley and Commissioner Kelly. Sure.
Good morning.
I would like to clarify that I'm not really sold on the deal, but I'm open to listening to it. It's really more sponsoring it, but that doesn't mean I'm already signed on.
Sure. So as you know, through our previous meetings and so forth, we've done various things, including appointing a technology committee to study this issue and to really provide more information to the various department heads and employees throughout the county and let them have informed consent in terms of evaluating the products that are available to us. As you know, we've been on NetData since approximately 1996. I think when I first started, the DA's office had a different program called Q&A, and then I think in '96 we rolled through NetData, and we've been using that. As legislative mandates have changed over the years, specifically the Michael Morton Act, it's caused us to have to change the way that we do business. It was another unfunded mandate. And so in trying to comply with those issues, we began working hand in hand with NetData and trying to create a system that would work for us. We exhausted that possibility. We utilized the system that they had available. They were unable to make changes that were necessary to accommodate our needs to comply with that act. And so as a result of that, we had to move on from NetData and providing our online discovery to custom software that's provided through Document Logistics, a company that's provided a great product, does a wonderful job, but that still creates an issue in duplicative work by many employees and trying to maintain two systems, NetData and both Document Logistics. It's created other issues for other agencies or other departments as well, including the clerk's office. And so it's obviated the need that, for a long time, NetData is a minimal system that's based on antiquated technology. It's a DOS system. This system is not a long-term system in place at this point. It's a system that will not meet our county needs in the future. And so we need to look to the future and trying to replace that, something that will be lasting nature. Based on that, we've reached out to different companies and trying to decide what would be a good option in terms of replacing our NetData system. We've had a lot of success in communicating with Tyler, with their Odyssey system, the various packages that they can provide to the different departments. We've also looked out or reached out to TechShare. TechShare did not respond to us, so we were unable to get you any information on that. One of the other companies that we were able to identify was LGS, which Mills County uses. Based upon an evaluation of that, it's our opinion that LGS doesn't even rise to the level of NetData, so obviously we're not going to recommend any further communication with them at that point. So the only reasonable option that we found was the Tyler system. In talking with all the department heads, and I know a lot of them are here, they were really blown away by what's available out there with Tyler and what packages that they have. Every department that I've spoken with or that their information's been relayed back to me had positive with one department head, I think, was the lone voice against it. So it seemed to be overwhelmingly supported based on the demonstrations and the interactions throughout. I know a lot of the department heads are here if anybody has any questions to them. And then, so that kind of brings us to kind of comparing apples to apples in terms of what that means for the county with regard to expenditures. Based on the best information that we've received from the auditor's office, it looks like our NetData annual maintenance is right at $260,930. I know that there's some counties in which NetData also charges a fee for certain items. I don't know if we're in that category as well. That would be up and above the annual maintenance fee. For instance, when you do citation service, I know that some counties have to pay additional free citation services done through the net data system. I just can't tell you whether or not Brown County is one of those that has to pay that extra fee or not. But basically, so we have a net data annual maintenance of at least $260,930. Now, the DA's office, we have a workflow that's provided by Monday.com. The current fee for that is $1,940 a year. And then our office database document manager by Document Logistics is $2,837.91. So that, gives us a total of approximately $265,687.91 that is paid per year for expenditures related to this. Now, this excludes the software currently being used by the sheriff's office. This is no way a reflection of those costs built in as well. So this is just everything else apart and separate from the sheriff's office. Then as part of that system, because of the nature of it, we have to maintain servers to back up our system. Now, we have to replace those servers approximately every 5 years. I know that whenever the DA's office, buys the servers, we pay $3,000 for each of those servers because Matt's able to buy those directly. Whenever you have to replace that data requires you to purchase those from them, and theirs is $4,000. So you also have those costs, associated with the current system. This kind of, and then let me transition down to the annual maintenance with regard to Tyler. So for the first year, that would be at a $222,785, which you can obviously see the savings that you can have there compared against the annual maintenance fee. The only tricky part is that for the first year, you're going to have that double maintenance fee because the Tyler system is currently, they would be hosting that setup. And so whenever they're hosting that setup, you're going to pay that maintenance fee. And so, but there's nothing that would prevent you from paying those again out of the American Rescue Plan as well and avoid those costs to the county. But that's just for that first year. The second year, we're able to lock in up to 5 years in terms of what our maintenance fees will be. So the second year is that 232 amount, and then the third to the fifth year is the $242,753 amount. So you can see there that we have a rare opportunity. It's kind of a one-time anomaly because of the American Rescue Plan monies that are available, that we could actually update our system here and overhaul it completely without any monies coming out of the county coffers. And then we could also, with regard to paying the annual maintenance fee, we could immediately start saving county funds in regard to the amount that's spent there. So you can cut the amount that you're spending out of our actual county funds and paying down those maintenance fees. You can see that we've put some figures in there for integration with Southern. That one integration tool that's currently developed is $4,300. We put some question marks by additional integration. We know that there will be some additional integration. We expect that to be a couple $1,000s, but that amount is not specifically known, so I can't give you a hard set amount on that. But we're not talking about hundreds of thousands, we're talking about thousands, okay? Then when you get down to the project overall cost, you can see that the project cost is, that we do have in writing is $241,350 plus travel expenses, a little under $68,000 for a total project of $1,309,166. Now, there is one thing that I want to point out to you. Our net data contract does run from January through December. So if the county was to approve the contract with Tyler fairly quickly, we could be up and running by January 2023. So that means that we could essentially do away with our net data cost by that time. If we were to wait 2 or 3 months and decide on the project and then move forward with it, that would likely it would not be feasible that we would be up and running by January 2023. And so we would have to negotiate a short-term contract with Net Data to continue providing until that project was complete, which could be costly because at that point they obviously you would be on the outs with Net Data, and so they could kind of have you over the barrel on a short-term cost. So that's the factor that we want to consider in terms of timing of the project. We don't want to wait too long and go and incur that possibility of those additional fees. I think that what we're really asking you to do this morning is not necessarily that y'all vote on it at this particular time, but to provide this information to you, give you the opportunity to study the information that we provided you. If you have any other questions, allow us to, try to answer those questions for you. If, any of y'all need to do your own homework and check some things in the meantime, this would be that opportunity that we'd ask y'all to take that and do. If you have any other tasks that you want to have the technology committee try to perform, then, give some marching orders in that regard. But we would ask that you consider, resetting this fairly in short order for consideration of actually voting on the overall issue. And so with that in mind, I'll just take any questions that you might have.
So you're talking about Tyler and Odyssey transitioning in the next 16 months.
Yes,
So it's going to take 16 months to get it done.
that's my expectation. And I know that Sherry's here, and so in all of our discussions, that's our expectation, that it will be completed at that time.
Who's here?
I'm sorry?
You said somebody's here.
Sherry Huntington, the Tyler representative,
The lady that was here the other day.
and so she's here again, if anybody has any questions for her. Of course, Alicia's done a lot of our technology side.
Are you wondering why it takes that long? I can answer it a little bit, and then I probably also should defer to Sherry, having switched software companies once before. So there is an out of the box package from Tyler, but they also meet with each individual department to discuss customizing that to each department. Once they do the customizations we request, then we have to kind of look at it and work with it and see, is it working the way we expected? If there's something that happens that we're like, oh, we didn't mean for that to happen, we didn't anticipate that this was gonna happen, then we communicate that back to the software company, they make revisions. And also they will be converting our old data from net data. And so the process of ensuring that conversion process goes correctly also plays into that. That's correct.
And then with regard to any of the department heads, if I've misspoke for anybody, they're welcome to speak up, but I'm pretty sure that correctly identified that, the support is almost 100% unanimous with, one exception. But other than that, it's certainly seems to provide everything that I'm in my office with me to help us to unify our system. I think that it would create an opportunity where we wouldn't have to rely on multiple different software companies to provide us bits and pieces for us to do our job. So that is certainly a welcome opportunity from our standpoint. And just in my conversations with Shane the other day when we were getting the demonstrations, we both pointed out that, this is an issue we've been looking at for a long time and dealing with and trying to, see what we could do to obviously make our offices run more efficiently and run better together. This whole case, working with the clerk's office and the sheriff's office, it provides multiple different components. And if we can all be on the same page, it would certainly streamline it and make it easier for all of us.
You're including the sheriff's department in this?
Well, the sheriff's office is currently with Southern, and so that's the integration tool that we've talked about that's been developed, that we spoke of from Polk County, how they did the integration package over there. And it'll be our plan to try to implement that so that there would not be duplication of efforts in trying to upload, different documents to the BCGIS forms or what have you, trying to make sure that all the paperwork's done.
And who bought net data?
I do not know the investment company that purchased that.
They weren't absorbed by another software
Yes,
company?
Was it?
I3 Verticals purchased it.
Who?
I3 Verticals?
i3 Verticals, they're a vertical integration company. They buy various and different software companies and are attempting to integrate them together.
Where are they at on that?
They're, to my knowledge, from what I've heard and from what they've spoken to me, they are in the talking phase of that.
They're 2 years into that acquisition.
So I don't expect any changes out of them in a while.
I just know that they were unresponsive to our needs in trying to develop our Michael Morton Act software for the office. There's a lot of upfront talk about that they could meet our expectations and do what we needed, but when it came down to it, they were unwilling to take pointers from us in terms of what we needed their software to do. They did not tweak it for us. They would not change things, simple things. And so it was kind of, here's our product, take it or leave it kind of thing. And so we were unable to make that work for us. And that's why we had to, diverge from that and go and find the other software.
I know I've kind of requested to hear from somebody from that company before we do anything at all, and so we hadn't done that yet, so.
We don't, I'm not sure even who our point of contact is. The only time I ever hear from NetData, I know back in the day, we used to have regular contact with NetData representatives back in the 90s. But present day, the only communication I hear from them is a Christmas card at Christmas. So that's the only communication I get from NetData.
I still would like to have one meeting with somebody from
And
NetData.
I'd love to be able to tell you a contact person, but again,
Somebody
they got away
mentioned,
from contact with
somebody
us.
mentioned the name Dallas. I can't recall who mentioned Dallas, but
So there's bound to be somebody there that can
I
come
have
talk to
several
us.
contact people that I talk to, and, they send me a turkey.
So there's just got better relationships. So,
I think they send me a turkey because of the collections department, GHS.
so, and I don't have contacts.
I've got several elected officials from other counties to talk to next week in Austin. And 2 clerks and 2 commissioners, and they've all one of them has recently switched to Tyler, and the others have, I don't remember how long, but it's been a while. But anyway, I wanted to talk to them, see how they are, and see how they're going.
Right, and we would invite y'all to do the same. I mean, I think that when you make these inquiries, we feel confident that you will get the kind of information you need to make the decision here. It's certainly, a lot of money. We don't, overstep that issue. We know that you'll need to have all the information available to you make that decision.
Yeah, my other concern is it may be legal to use this money for this, but I'm not sure if that was the intended use or the best use for the county as a whole. So I got several questions there, so
I think the legal aspect of it, I don't have any questions about that this is a permissible use of it.
it may be legal, like I said, but I'm still not sure. I'm not convinced that may not be the best way to spend the money as a whole for the county. I mean, I got more than one concern, but I really want to hear from somebody from NetData. I mean, I do personally.
I know that legally there's at least 3 different components that we fall under that permit this use.
How do you want to hear from that? Do you want
I think they ought to have a
do you
rep.
want to talk to
They
them?
should have a rep here to come visit with us.
Do you want to talk to them individually, or do you want to hear
They
from?
could be right here or individually, either way, but I think what their real intent is, what their timeline is.
If you could sit, or if someone could set up a Zoom meeting with Commissioner Kelton and maybe one more commissioner without having to post an agenda for it and let him get some information. Or have the, I don't know.
Would you be interested in seeing them here as a whole? What's your thoughts?
I'd like to hear from them. I'm pretty certain I know what they're gonna say, but I'd like them to say it for the record.
I think it's a great way to spend the
Yeah.
money. You said you didn't think it's a great way to spend the money.
I'm not sure it's the best way to spend the money.
Guess what?
To help,
It's a great way to spend the money,
Well,
because we got to be able to do our
it
work.
does here in the courthouse, but this money is supposed to help everybody in the county. It helps those in the courthouse, but that's my point. I mean, there may be
Well,
other,
here's one thing that it will do. It will provide better access from the general public to the information that we have. It will allow them to access our documents, maybe not all the documents, like for instance, our discovery portal clearly would not be accessible by the general public, but they will be able to access online documents through the county for a fee. I think that they'll be able to commit it or print it directly. Those kind of issues. So it will definitely increase public participation within the courthouse without necessarily even having to step foot in the courthouse.
so I'm not saying it's not necessarily, I don't think it's the general public's major concern, but it is a concern, but I'm not sure as a whole, that's just That's my thoughts, but okay.
Well, we're gonna be having, what's gonna happen though, is we're gonna be forced to do it too. Then we'll have to come up with something. I think that's where we're headed right now, because it's not doing the things we need to do.
Yeah,
Doing our
it's-
job.
I mean,
We're
there's,
gonna be forced to do it, don't you
Yeah,
think?
70 questions.
I feel like it's going that way unless we see big changes coming from the other direction, and I haven't seen anything that gives me that
Maybe-
impression.
Maybe if you get them here and they'll talk, big talk, then maybe we can pressure them, I don't know. But they don't do anything we ask them to. They're very nice, my reps are, but as far as making changes.
Personally,
if they value their business, they ought to be here.
I think Net Data has set what they're gonna do in stone because they're still operating on DOS. DOS is,
Ancient.
well, it's more than ancient. Yeah, it's a 80s and 90s technology.
And that's why I kind of shared my personal story with you, just to show you that, there were promises made that they could, meet our expectations, but there was not the effort that was followed up by it. And so they can say what they want to, but when it came down to rubber meets the road, they were not able to provide the stuff that they indicated that they would. And we had to do that.
I'll admit that in the beginning, I was hesitant. I fully supported the program switching over, but I was hesitant at using the ARP money. But to be honest, if it will help mitigate COVID by reducing the number of people who need to come into the courthouse building. This building was built in 1911. It doesn't have great ventilation and there's not a lot of room in it. We've long since outgrown it. So I would like to hear from Net Data, but I'm convinced one way or the other that we probably ought to, unless they tell us something surprising. That's
So one thing I will related to Net Data that I think is important to keep in consideration. I'm sure that when they have a county come to them and say, look, we're gonna leave you and we're not interested in going forward, they will make some sort of promise about things they can do. What you have to understand is that the framework that they're built on is not capable, even if they wanted to, of doing the things that we need a modern system to do. So, when you talk about streaming videos for discovery, when you talk about e-filing, you can't change the nature of a DOS system to be capable of things like that without totally redoing their entire company. And they're not gonna do that for one county.
Right.
So I think that's an important part of the discussion, is we kind of have to have some level of skepticism of the promises to be able to do the things that Tyler can do, because they just don't have the infrastructure to be able to do it.
And I think we see that going in, but we would still like to have them read it into the record,
Sure.
so that we've covered all our bases.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to make sure y'all understood kind of that reluctance on our part to even engage in lots of discussion.
Net Data is always at the conferences also, and I'm sure that they will have a booth next week at the legislative conference. So I will make a point to stop by and try to set up appointments with them.
I'll be down there also.
And so my request really this morning is if you can reschedule this in the next week or so, after y'all had an opportunity to carry out the additional information, so that we can come to a decision about this project. So if this is something that y'all decide that y'all want to move forward on, that we can, kind of get that going so that we can avoid that issue in the future in terms of, having potentially additional costs in trying to maintain what we get up and going. Ideally, if we could cut it off at a convenient point and not incur additional costs, that would be optimal. I understand that sometimes you're not able to do that, but in this case, we've got a little bit of time here to get that done, so.
We can do that. Just for, any other questions for the district attorney? Just for the record, I believe we're sitting on, I'm rounding, but we're sitting on about 1.7 million of the first disbursement of ARC left. And we're told that the bill that was passed, we don't know, but sometime after the first of next year, we've got another 3.3 roughly. Is it 3.3, Bob, or 3.5?
For next year, sir, it'll be, probably 3.6 is what it'll be.
3.6 million, just so you have that in the back of your mind. All right, so we're taking no action on this item? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, item number 8E is in Edward is the sheriff. Come on up, Sheriff. Sheriff Vance Hill, consideration and possible approval regarding employee changes. This is the employee changes the sheriff had on the agenda last week, but due to COVID exposure, he wasn't able to be here.
Yeah, and it hasn't gotten much better. You know,
Did you get your ventilators that we?
yes, we appreciate that. I'm going in the jail and then also in the patrol room. I've got one employee change right now. We hired Taylor Hetzel in the jail at a rate of $32,000 per year. He's replacing Christopher Angel, who recently went to patrol a few months ago. So that's the only one that I have.
How are you on staffing?
I've got 16 out with COVID or pneumonia, but I'm down 3 positions in the jail and 2 positions as a deputy. We're hurting.
I have to start patrolling. No, still no doubt.
Do I have a
Still no doubt.
motion to approve the sheriff's?
I move we approve the employee changes in the sheriff's office.
Second.
Commissioner Kelton seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Here you go, Sheriff.
Okay. You want to go right?
Yeah. I'm a good drink one.
Hey, Christine, are you?
No, I'm gonna.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, the next is our tax assessor, but our county clerk's going to present it. Item number 8F is in Frank, information report of educational credits. So she is in compliance with section 6.231 of the Texas Property Tax Code.
Christine has to take continuing education as do the rest of us, and she has to report it to the court, and she has taken her 20 hours, 0.25, and she is from August 2020 to August 2021, and then it starts over. And she just has to report it to the commissioner's court. And she
There's no
did-
action that we have to take,
No.
correct?
She just actually wanted to let y'all know that she did take it. She was required to do that.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Item number 8G is in George, is Commissioner Shaw, Precinct 3, consideration and possible approval consideration and possible approval of action regarding, installing a private line on County Road 348 by the Central Texas Telecommunications Commission.
The Central Texas Telephone Communications going to install a Marion line on County Road 258. And there was a typo there, the 248, 258, down there, south of our precinct, joint commission road. And it will be a blower, and it'll be done at the county specs.
You say 258 or 3?
258.
Well,
It says 348
I
here,
was gonna
Wayne.
say,
Yeah,
you
yeah, that's a
know,
typo.
I'm not
On the way
positive,
around that.
Wait,
What?
I'm not positive that it's not 348.
Yeah, I couldn't hardly read the way he wrote it. So anyway, it's on 258, where it's at, right where it joins the Mills County line.
We might need to clarify with CTGC.
Whatever y'all want to do.
It might have been 348 and he put 248 on there, and Susie said there was not a 248, but there is
Yeah,
a
but
348.
Mills County Road that joins is 549. So we might ought to just get it clarified before we go ahead and do it.
So we'll take no action on item number 8G is in George. Stephanie, could you follow up on that? Item number 8H is in Henry is Commissioner Traywick. Precinct 4, consideration and possible approval of action regarding installing a private line on County Road 129 by Brooksmith SU.
This is on, it's gonna be a cut, it's on a dirt road, base road, whatever. And, it's gonna be done to county specs by Brooksmith SUD. I'll make a motion to approve this.
With motion second to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Is that on 129 or 229
129.
or 329?
129.
129.
All in favor? Carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Item number 7, back up, is consideration approval payment of any bills as needed.
This is Larry's. Did you pass the bills around a while ago?
I did.
Big one, yeah.
He didn't give her out napping, but I don't know.
I think that could be or something.
Was Cheryl on the agenda?
I think.
Oh, she thought she was going
I didn't get a request from him.
to see. That's why she was.
What's that?
She was asking if Cheryl Jones was on the
I thought
agenda.
she would might have been, get her archive, it was very, I think we're on there for the 7th, September to get one, that we made, we'll have to make. That's the holiday on Tuesday. I'll bring you the wording.
Yes, ma'am.
What does the appraisal district get out of the club?
Oh, that's their portion of the,
The collection part of the fee.
I don't remember exactly how much it is.
Is that for them collecting their taxes?
From the road club, yeah.
Gary's still studying.
You did some right asphalt? Oh, it's three. It's three. One. I knew you did it. Heard that.
Do that, but the bill's still wrong.
Bob, if you're hanging around, Bob, if you're hanging around for that item we discussed, we'll do it next time.
I need to discuss something with Shane before it's possible.
All right. Do I hear a motion on the bills?
I make a motion to pay the bills for the county auditor.
There's a motion and a second by Commissioner Trawick. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carries unanimously. Last item is item number 9, which is Commissioner's comments. No action can be taken on this. Yes, item number 9. No action can be taken on this, but if you have any announcements you'd like to make, and then we'll take a short break and then go into our budget workshop that's posted.
Yes.
I don't really have anything since Lisa did the COVID announcement. Wayne, you, Larry? Gary? All right, with that, we need to meet again on the 30th, is that correct? We don't have to, but do we want to meet again for the budget?
Yes.
So we might as well have both meetings.
We'll discuss it in the budget.
Okay. Well, if nothing else, we'll look at having a called meeting on the 30th. With that, I'll declare this meeting adjourned. And y'all need a quick break before we go into the budget. Ladies need a break.
We got an email from Josie that I need to talk to her. She had a question.